that's an idea. Now that's an idea. Now that's an idea. Now that's an idea.
Kia ora, and welcome to Now That's an Idea. This is the show where we explore good ideas, and I'm your host, Jack Marshall. We're kicking off this season with a bit of a special one because it's voting time here in Tairāwhiti. We've got some candidates who want to get into power, but a lot of them make vague statements like, we're going to keep rates low and I'm going to listen to the people. But what are they actually planning? What do they hope to do? And how would they do it? So this is the show where we're going to dive into their idea and they're going to tell us what they want to do and how they're going to do it. So you can get a better idea of their thinking and if they've actually got some good ideas or they might need to think a bit harder. All right, let's interview some candidates. And we're recording. Thanks so much for being on the show. And so today I'm joined by Rawinia Parata, a current councillor who is running again for Māori Ward here in Tairāwhiti. And before we get on to your idea for the region, do you want to give a bit of an introduction about yourself? I know you're kind of a known person, but for some of maybe the new voters out there and people who don't know, do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, kia ora. My name is Rawinia Parata. I am currently a Māori Ward councillor for the Gisborne District Council and am running again, I suppose, for the second term. I am also lead advisor for the Regional Public Service Commission for the East Coast. For the last 5 years, have been living in Pretoria and have just moved to Kaiti in Gisborne. I'm a mama of 3. My youngest, Te Ana Whakairo, is autistic and nonverbal. My daughter, Te Asi Manuka, is 7 and our oldest, Henimaya, is 16. I am a community advocate, particularly for the Ngāti Porou communities, and have learnt heaps from being on council over the last 3 years. And I suppose I'm really keen and think that I will add value to council for another term.
Yeah, so you've got a background in communications and creative writing. Could you tell us a bit about that? I thought that was quite interesting.
Yep, I have a degree, an undergraduate degree, Bachelor of Communications, and I have a master's in creative writing. I have written short stories that have been published and over the last couple of years have dabbled in writing plays. I won a Brown Ink Award for Pacifica Māori playwrights for my play Outside of the Fence, and then went on to do Koanga Festival with Te Pou Theatre and wrote Pōraru, which is on Spotify. So I love that.
Yeah. I mean, amazing. I love speaking to people running for council because you all seem like a little bit overachievers with so many like different hats all on at the same time. And you're a mama, so you're a busy woman.
Yeah, I suppose I am. I think having done lots of different things gives me a really broad perspective. And I think when you come to council, you need to bring all of those life experiences, the things the communities that you're a part of, and you need to bring that to life and advocate for that at the table.
Yeah, and what was it like being a first-term councillor in the Māori wards? Because there's a lot of talk about it anyway. But like from being up the coast, did that give you like a bit of extra perspective? Or you're almost like a rural and Māori ward councillor almost.
I knew that going in, even putting my name forward as a Māori Ward candidate that first time, it was a big deal. It was the first time that the Gisborne District Council had ever had Māori Wards or Māori Ward councillors. There was a space even for Māori to represent at the table. I put my name forward knowing that the specific set of skills that are required for council, which is actually not public speaking and going to events and talking, it's actually being able to read and comprehend huge levels of technical information, reading and preparedness. I knew I wanted to put my name forward in hopes of getting in, but just really to make sure that our people had plenty to choose from, I suppose, lots of names and lots of kinds of people to choose from. And then when I got in, it was the challenge of getting to and from town a couple of times a week. Post Cyclone Gabrielle, that trip could take 2.5 hours one way. And so I would head to town, do the meeting, and then I'd head home again. And so I had lots of time to think about what our people were dealing with, the realities of isolation, the realities of inequity. So every time I came to the table, I came with that perspective. And so I actually like the new structure where there are no rural wards. It's just everyone is a councillor for everybody, and the region can choose who they want to represent their issues or who they want to talk to in terms of the things that their communities are facing. And I like that, because really you should be putting all 13 of us to work, no matter where you live. Whoever it is that you really connect with or you really want to talk to, all 13 of us are responsible for advocating for our people. And I really like that.
How did you find the dynamic with the Māori wards? You know, because it's like fresh for everyone, like the general wards, and I did hear some comments where a couple of the general ward people, like older Pākehā guys, had the comment something like, "Oh, I wasn't sure about this," and then I spoke to some of the Māori ward candidates, and they kind of really enlightened me. So that was really good. It was just like offhanded positive comments. I was like, it's kind of the things you don't really see too much. But what was your experience? Because you've obviously seen a lot more than me in that one little clip I saw.
It is, our experience in Gisborne and Te Tairāwhiti has been different, I think, from other councils. So it took time to build a relationship between the Māori ward and the general ward, but it takes time to build relationships no matter where you are, and to build trust and understanding between one another. Those older Pākehā men that sit at the Gisborne District Council, I really value their opinion. They've got a lot of experience and they share that open-heartedly, and also when we speak, they listen. And so in turn, when they speak, I make sure to listen. And the relationship I feel that we've built at the table over this last 3 years is one of respect, and that's helped us make good decisions for our region. Actually, I feel like the decisions we make are more equitable now than they've ever been, and they're more whānau focused, which provides a balance, because some of those guys, they come from corporate backgrounds or they come from business backgrounds. And that's really important. It's really important that those voices stay at the table, but they need to be balanced with, other perspectives that, advocate for our disability sector, that advocate for, our vulnerable whānau. I'm a single mother, so I always come from that perspective as well. And the more we have these discussions at the table and the more we try and find that happy medium, the better the decisions and the better the representation for our region. So big ups to the older white guys that sit at my table. I have got nothing but care and respect for all of them.
It's just a story that isn't maybe highlighted enough, or just kind of maybe isn't seen, but yeah, just sometimes just good news stories are bubbling under the surface. All right, so let's crack on to your idea. If you're re-elected, do you have an idea or a project that you'd like to champion? And obviously, you're just one voice of 13, and you don't have ultimate power to do whatever you want, but you can champion ideas and kind of push for things. So can you give us a pitch? What's your idea?
I think firstly it's really important to say that council is a giant machine, and the Gisborne District Council in particular is a unitary authority. So I can have all of the beautiful big ideas I want, but that's not how council works. And if you're listening to people and they're saying that this is what they want to champion and this is what will happen, it's not true. They can't do it. They cannot do it. A lot of the decisions that council make is dependent on their long-term plan. You can advocate for some of that stuff, but lots of it is to do with how many dollars we've got in the bank and what's available and what's a priority and what isn't. So that's the first thing I want voters to understand is be careful about people who are promising you that they can do things that they just can't do. So I suppose my big ideas are going to seem really underwhelming, but it's because I know how council works, and I want to be realistic about what I think I can achieve over the next 3 years. So one of the main things I want to do, we don't have enough housing here in Te Tairāwhiti, and our industries are struggling. And so for me, it's around improving the consenting process. We really need to work with central government who develops the things around the building consents. We just need to make sure that the Gisborne District Council is not the reason that houses are not being built. So we're not the builder of houses. but we hold the consenting process and the resource consent process, and we just need to make sure that we're enabling that to happen for our region, that we're not the barrier to moving forward. That's not a sexy answer, but we do want to be making sure that we're enabling business, that forestry in particular, that industry doesn't fall over altogether. And I know that post-Cyclone Gabrielle and hail, that there were all of these issues with woody debris, and I know we blame forestry for that, but also forestry feeds 1 in 4 families in Te Tairāwhiti. 1 in 4 families, 1 in 4 whānau are being fed and sustained by the forestry industry. We have to be so careful that we don't topple the entire industry, right? And so council needs to be doing its monitoring and its evaluation and its compliance issues and its compliance function, with industry. We cannot be doing it so punitively that the industry itself falls over, because then what? On top of that, we need to be looking at diversifying, and we're working on that, the transitions to various land options. All of that is happening, but we just need to make sure we do it in balance and that there's enough diverse industries for people, businesses are thriving, and families are being fed, and then they themselves will thrive. So those things. And then lastly, sorry, I know you only said one idea, but I've got one more thing. I have been asking for council to make parks and reserves, playgrounds, its own financial line, because right now it sits kind of under townships, but I think that it's part of core council business, and that playgrounds, in particular recreational spaces, they need their own budget in council. They need their own budget assigned to playgrounds, because our tamariki, rangatahi and whānau need spaces where they can connect and be happy, because that is the wealth of a community.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, people always talking about how, doing things outside of school is like something that's can be so difficult in Tairāwhiti, especially in winter. So now, I know we have one idea and we went for, and you've gone for multiple.
Sorry.
No,
There were multiple little ideas.
yeah. Containing one larger idea. So maybe, can you give us some specifics on how you would champion this and what would success be?
Lucky for me, the things that I'm saying make sense. They're not radical ideas. It's more of a perspective shift than anything. The way to be successful in council is to get the majority vote. That's how council works. You vote on the issues at the table, and then you direct your operational staff or your CEO to direct her operational staff to achieve that. The way to be successful at council is to be influential, make friends at the table, and then make sure they vote your way.
So
That's the only way to do it.
On those ideas you brought up, say for example the playgrounds, is that something that's kind of in the works or you've been talking with other people about?
Yeah, I've said it about several times this term, and it's been supported by the councillors. I haven't seen it yet, but that's not to say it's not coming. So some of those financial things take time to put into place, but it's been noted, and I expect to see it soon, hopefully.
Yeah. And what about consenting? Because I know this is almost, if council wanted to have a better public persona, sort out consenting, because it's kind of the one little pebble in the shoe that people just hate the council for, is always just something here, something there. It's always consenting. So how could you fix that? What kind of conversations are you having with other people about it?
I will be absolutely honest. I'm not a subject matter expert. I've never had to apply for consent. So I've also never had to process a consent. So I would just say that now, I know that the council staff do the best that they can, but there must be things that we can do better. There must be barriers in the way that we're working. It might be that we don't have enough staff that's qualified to work on it, and therefore that's making the timeframes longer. It might be that our interpretations of legislation are too stringent. Maybe we can look at loosening some of those things up. It might be that whānau needs support in the application process. So they might not be life-changing big changes. They might just be small tweaks that improve the system. And I'm just keen to ensure that we're doing that. And that's what I mean about a perspective shift, is that once we start instructing council or our CE to instruct her operational staff, make it faster, make it better, work with industry. The other thing, especially when it comes to forestry, is that when there's a big emergency, a weather emergency, woody debris everywhere, it is council in the firing line. And that creates risk aversion. And that's why the compliance is the way it is, because of the risk aversion, because of how often council have to wear the responsibility of the mistakes that happen. We need to find a balance of that and a relationship that creates harmony, where industry are working, what do they call it, best practice, operating under best practice, and we are also operating under best practice so that both can thrive. But the reality is that no matter what happens in the region, council will wear it, and that's why it is the way it is.
So do you have any kind of ideas on your first steps when you get back to council? Is it just kind of, I know there's like a lot of process and meetings, but have you got kind of a timeline or a vision if you were to get voted back in? What's your first steps?
Last time I got in, the first kind of steps were about getting to know each other. That doesn't sound like that important of a deal, but it really is. Getting to know the people that you will sit next to for the next 3 years is hugely important. The Māori Ward, when we got in the first time, we well, as is our way, I suppose, getting to really know them, like the name of your wife, what do you do for a living, where do you live, what are your communities, what is your background, what are the names of your grandchildren, when is their birthdays. And so as you build those relationships, you can also build trust in the people you sit next to, so that you know that you're going to make good decisions. So that's the first step, I think. Secondly is starting to think about which of the committees you want to sit on. And it's not just sit on, it's where do I really think I'm going to be able to add the most value? Because you have committees of the whole, and then you have specific kind of work streams. So that, and then in terms of moving things along, you really have to do your first lots of meetings to figure out what is on the agenda, and are we working towards the long-term plan? Because that's actually where you're going to be able to feed most of your aspirational ideas into the long-term plan. But in terms of the consenting stuff, that sort of sits under operations infrastructure.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this next council, because everyone I've spoken to is just sharp like yourself.
That's good.
All right, well, do you want to give like a little, if anyone's undecided out there, do you want to give like a little candidate closing pitch? Why should people vote for you over other candidates, or as well as other candidates? Or, do you have a one message to take away that people can take away from this interview?
I care about whānau, and I wake up and go to sleep every day and think about te Tairāwhiti and what's good for us. But whānau should vote for who they want. Vote for the people that resonate with you and that you think will do a good job. If that's me, I'll give it everything I've got. But if that's not me, that's all right, so long as you vote. That's the main thing. And the second thing I think is, please vote to keep the Māori wards. Everyone gets to vote on that, whether you're on the Māori roll or not. Everybody gets to vote to keep the Māori wards. And the Māori wards provide diversity in our voice. And it ensures that we have more perspective, more voices, a wider reach. More people are being represented now than ever before. Was it a perfect run this last 3 years? No, it wasn't. But we only just got to the table. It will get better. And more of our leaders will come through, and it'll get better and better every single year. So I really encourage everybody to vote to keep the Māori wards, and vote for the candidates you want to represent you.
Awesome. If you've got still like another 30 seconds or a minute or so, we've got a rapid pop fire quiz.
Okay, go, because my baby's crying.
Can be favourite fish and chip shop in Tairāwhiti?
The Kaikat in Rotorua.
Yeah, nice. Favourite Lord of the Rings character? Do you have one? This has been a dud question so far.
Do I have one? What's his name? The dwarf? Gimli the dwarf? Yeah.
Any reason for that, or just...
I just thought he was
looking?
the best of all of the fellowship, to be honest. I thought he was the best.
Whale rider or boy?
Whale rider. And all self-respecting Tairāwhiti people should be saying whale rider.
I think it's got 6 out of 6 right now. Some people find winter a bit difficult in Tairāwhiti, a bit boring, not much to do. How do you get through winter? Or is it just a breeze for you?
Winter is the peak of rugby season. I don't know who in Te Tairāwhiti is bored. Everyone is busy in winter. So Yeah, you need to be getting to rugby, guys.
Yeah. And final question. Power pie, yay or nay?
Not for me. Not for me. That's not how I like to eat paua, but I respect people who like it.
Diplomatic answer.
Now that's an idea.